Shut up and sit down.
Hi everybody, I'm Lena Robinson, your host, and welcome to the FTSE podcast. Today we have an interesting woman that I met on a boat on the Thames. It was last year, and weirdly, we also realised that we knew each other through Dave on the With AI podcast that I also do. So Natalia Talkowska, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. How
It's
exciting.
okay.
From boat to, tech.
I know. And I think the thing that I've continued to be attracted to you when you're online or when I've met you in person is you are definitely, for me, that sort of, I don't want to say perfect, but it is perfect, that perfect nonconformist. You definitely don't fit in a box, which I love. And you're a storyteller. I'm just reading my notes here because my brain has gone kaput today. Keynote speaker, you've done things like TEDx talks, you're traveling around the world. I think you're going off to Australia soon, is that right?
Yes.
You are definitely creative. I've seen you in the worlds of design, and you're definitely a creative thinker, definitely an artist, in my view anyway. You can talk around the AI, neuroscience, and you're also advising and mentoring. And that all fits around what you've been doing for definitely over a decade now as CEO and founder of Natalka. Yay! I got it all out.
Can you be my PR? Thank you.
Oh, I could try. So thank you very much for coming on today. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because I think it'll go in some really interesting directions. We have a first question that I always ask everybody, which is to you, what does nonconformity mean to you? Because it can mean so many things to so many people.
To me, it means what it's always kind of been a huge part of my, I think, world and how I think, how I see the world. There's just no boxes, to me at least. And I think that for all of us, I wish that we all felt that. I don't think we can always do that for different reasons, because the world wants us to be in different boxes of different shapes and sizes and all that. That's how it's built. That's how we're all easier controlled, how we all interact in a kind of almost, let's call it, predictable way. The world likes to be predictable, but also we know that life is not. And so, at least for me, I can just speak for myself. I've never seen any boxes, although you could claim that how I grew up and where I grew up and on my background and, let's say, the predictable future of where I'm from and all the kind of background to it, easily could say that there will definitely be some sort of a box for me. And not to say that I'm definitely part of some, because, still got to pay my bills and do all the things that we all have to do. So that's fair if I want to be part of something called society, but I just never seen a box. I don't like them, so why would I imagine them? So I imagine no boxes, like Neo in Matrix is kind of 1010 everywhere to me.
Didn't you just do a post about that recently? Something to do with Neo and the Matrix, or somebody did. Anyway, I saw something online about that, and I agree with you. I think there's part of us that kind of, to bump along in the world, we kind of need to sometimes rub up against a box, maybe. But I'm a little bit like you. I think the boxes are where all the good stuff doesn't get in. I think. It kind of keeps all and the cool, interesting bits don't fit inside of a box, I don't think, in life and people.
Yeah, and I don't think of ourselves as boxes. Almost like I always think, maybe I'll go quite too deep for some at the start, but I think kind of the body is inside our kind of soul and energy and everything. Whoa, I'm gonna flip this for everyone straight away. If you're listening to this in the morning and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? But I just, in general, I don't think like what we see. That's easy to say that it's physical, it has an end and start to it, but I kind of think that in general, the more we think in an expansive way, the more we can kind of, I think, feel like ourselves and feel like anything's possible. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you try to predict, no matter how many futurists are out there, and I'm one of them, I talk about foresight and futures all the time in my talks, but at the end of the day, no one has any clue. And the answer to everything is, I don't know. And if we agree with
Yeah.
ourselves that that's the case, and we'll just, let's see what comes out of this thing called now, 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 like in quantum physics is constantly layers of now, then we might just, maybe be put at more ease because humans like to worry. That's just our nature.
No, that's true. It leads us on to, you mentioned something before, which leads us on to the second question that we sort of get into much more broadly is, you talked about your background and where you've come from, and like myself, you're not from the UK. Tell us a bit about yourself, your sort of upbringing and education and family life, and what's created Natalia, the non.
Mm, the communist walls of concrete. That's the
Okay, let's
name.
get into
Oh.
this then.
Well, that's actually correct. I know I look very young, everyone, if you're looking at this right now, but I am from, I come from, well, still communist Poland, going into, let's call it the next phase. And yeah, you're looking at someone who grew up very in a humble beginning, very much in a small town in Poland. That's where I'm from. Simple upbringing, quite, I would say, volatile, kind of, let's say, upbringing in terms of what was happening at home and everything. So very quickly, having not many, I always say, like inputs and things to think about apart from school and running around, I was just constantly escaping into my own worlds, meaning I was creating stuff. I was
Right.
like, give me a pebble and it's going to become a castle. Give me a kiosk and it's going to be my HQ. Give me a, road and it's going to be my river, whatever. So this is, I think, the gift of growing up in with, let's say, let's call it, I always had enough, in that
Mm,
sense, but with very simple surroundings, because I used to kind of be in that space of like, when I travel a lot, Paris, New York, I love these places, they inspire me. London, you look up and you're like, whoa, history, architecture, what's happening?
mm,
You can't not be inspired. So I always thought like, oh, how amazing would it be to like grow up in those places? What would be my brain like now in view of the world if I grew up in such attractive, rich places where after school you can go and sit in a gallery for hours if you want to. But what happens when you grow up with kind of very simple surroundings, you kind of come up with stuff. And I think that's a gift in a sense that I look at it now because I spent hours and hours and hours, and I definitely have so many more than 10,000, as they say, to become an expert in drawing, because that was my escapism. That was my safe place. That was somewhere where my imagination had no barriers. I could come up with anything and anything on that paper or with my hands, and it was created and it's here out of nowhere. I spent hours on just basically running around, playing instruments, dancing, throwing myself into things, getting, all kind of dirty on the in the playground till late hours until I had to go back home. No phones, no nothing. Of course, we know that. So I don't want to go super nostalgic if anyone 20-year-old or younger listens to it. But guys, like I wish you could experience that sort of environment at least for a week because it was
yeah.
very interesting, different experience to, where we are now. And I almost feel for sometimes the young souls that are around us that they had no choice but
Yeah.
be born in that. So that's kind of that. So naturally, I just was so curious. I had big dreams. I was staring at the moon every night through my window, not to go too poetic, but I just had always big dreams. I just didn't know how I'm going to get there. But I think before I even knew, I was already kind of manifesting. I was visualizing. I'm huge on visualization. I'm huge on creating something that's nowhere there in front of you, but you blindly believe is there. And I think without that and that sort of blind belief that there's a purpose and there's a bigger kind of journey for me ahead, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And it's a constant. It's a constant journey, and I sometimes feel like I don't do it enough. And I kind of check in with myself to make sure I continue to do that and don't get complacent.
There was a really interesting, you've just triggered a thought in my mind actually. There was a really interesting, and I can't remember the name of the professor or the woman. I think her name's Mel somebody. Anyway, I watched something the other day where there is now starting to be scientific proof behind a science to uh, ensure manifestation actually happens in some things in the brain. Now, I'm not a scientist, so can't really speak to the scientists, but when you've got a professor talking about that there is neurological pathways that you can create and build, where if you do manifestation a very specific way, and that's what he said you had to do. There was a bit of writing involved. There was a different way that actually scientifically it's now proving that if you take that approach, then manifestation to a lot of people that seemed a bit woo woo is actually scientifically provable. I find that fascinating, because a lot of us, not me, I'm a person that does think if you think positively, and you focus on your goals and you sort of manifest, I guess is probably not a word I used to use, but that's probably what I'm doing, then I think it's a really powerful thing. And I think the fact that the science is now backing up what lots of people always believed in, I think it's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like take from it what you want. If you're totally against it,
Yeah,
that's cool,
true.
relax. If you're totally into it, awesome. Like I just always think each to their own. You make up your own world, as long as you're a kind human, I couldn't care less what
Yeah.
you and how you approach your life. But there is science to it, and also I think there's many ways to go about it because we're
Mm,
all so different and we're all naturally neurodivergent. Of course, some people more, less, whatever you want to put it on a scale, but no one's really kind of at a balanced level of something. And whoever established the balanced, what is that really, and why is that thought of as balanced again? I want to question, right? So I
yeah.
think we all need a bit of different ways of learning, different ways of acquiring, different ways of manifesting, different ways of input output. We're just all different creatures, which is wonderful. But there is study too. The power of visualization, not only in personal life but at work, everywhere. So that's what I do. For example, when I exit coach, and we use a lot of visualization, a lot of kind of manifesting what's next and how, and there's also, it's kind of almost connected to if you get into epigenetics and things like that. So that's
Mm,
another kind of layer. I'm not going to go into that now because it's more on a health side, but there's new studies as well kind of coming out where all the emotional state and how you are
mm,
and how your body is feeling and how you are mentally and everything that influences so much how your health looks like, and that is all intertwined into everything. Visualization at its core, even if you want to go really like even health wise, it lowers your cholesterol, it lowers your stress levels, it
yeah.
puts up the dopamine, you name it. If you want to go completely there, if you want to go more kind of, let's not call it woo woo, but more, let's say, into a deeper layer, there's just so many benefits where it's the whole kind of perception for the brain. The brain doesn't know what is true or not true. When you go for a run, the brain will still think that you're escaping from a tiger. So that's why, for example, in health, let's say industry and fitness, is kind of advised. Let's say if the only thing that you do with your body is run, you might actually, start getting some injuries or something. You might want to start lifting or whatever, because the brain really doesn't know if you're freaking escaping from a tiger, you're running to your next coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
So
Or
if
the
we
bus.
exactly, if we take that as a kind of base layer, then the brain will take whatever you're giving it and it will process constantly. It's like what, over 60,000 thoughts a day.
Mm,
I always say, you might don't want to trust all of these thoughts because that's just how we're wired. And for some reason from the past, because back in the days, apparently we were all escaping from these lions and tigers and making sure that we can survive. Our brains are just wired to kind of like, ooh, what's next? What's around the corner? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe?
mm,
So these days, let's just call it, for the most part, if you live in well, most of us, if you can listen to this podcast, probably, hopefully, you're in somewhere in a safe, let's say, space where there's society, other people around you, or maybe it's just you and the cows. That's cool. But on a daily, hopefully, you're not thinking anymore, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? But the brain is constantly kind of in that sort of space. So we almost, in the modern, let's call it, world, want to help it to not freak out all the time and overthink all the time. But that's how we're wired. And the
mm.
today's world is kind of unfortunately designed to make that even stronger, that's the uncool part of media and technology that is playing with us a bit. So that's why I always talk about, taking agency and kind of observing more how you live your life and what you do every day.
I think the taking agency is a really interesting uh, area, which I think is still developing for a lot of people. It's not something I am reading about it. I haven't seen as much of it as I would like to. I think the world would be a different place if we were all taking a bit more agency. But you mentioned a couple of things that interestingly enough, has come up many times in the FTSQ podcast, which is around curiosity and playfulness. And with no matter what people's upbringings are, you've obviously your upbringing. I've had a rural New Zealand upbringing, but like yourself, my imagination was always really strong. Like yourself, grew up with I didn't even have a television for a really long time, so no TV, no. I had quite happy parents, so we were out in the country, and it was playing with the animals and all the rest of it. That playfulness, and I was talking to them, interestingly, my parents, about this a couple of weeks ago, about they've not lost that either. And I think be really interesting to hear how you're using your curiosity and playfulness in life, in just being happily yourself, but also how you're maybe doing it in business and that kind of thing, how you're using that.
I mean, at the end of the day, and I so appreciate anyone that can come at me with, I've got a job in corporate, I can't be playful, or, I'm a doctor, can't be playful. Like, feel free to come at me. It's all good. As I said, like, each to their own. I'm here just sharing my thoughts. But I've been working with corporate environment, governments, very high level, rooms that I entered for the last 15 years. And I bring still on the highest level some sort of playfulness and some sort of curiosity and some sort of creativity because, well, that's first of all, that's a value for me. That's a skill that I can bring. That's something that I find that it's missing in the boardrooms.
Mm.
Definitely beyond certain point, we were just again taught and put into boxes that when you're at a certain level, there's no space for fun, there's no space for creativity, there's no space for discovery. And I totally appreciate that there's KPIs and ROIs and no time and the world is falling apart because that's what we're hearing every day and that's what we're fed and becomes true, to our brains at least. But there's again, if you want to go even science, and I'm very happy to share so many different insights after if anyone wants to read up about it more,
We can put them
to
into the show notes for sure.
yeah, to play and to, kind of creativity being just at the core of innovation and at the core of us moving forward anywhere. And if you get into it, there's so many books around, how was the light bulb discovered? How was, I don't know, electricity discovered? And all these things, all these huge names that you hear and walk around museums and you think like, whoa, Einstein, this and that.
Mm.
They also were humans who were playing and sometimes almost surprised that at some moment something was discovered. Usually, actually, through trying stuff, through being playful, and through doing things almost kind of not in the way that they were asked to do often. And something came up that was revolutionary for our lives now. So I say that there is space for creativity and playfulness at work. Now, how do you, of course, implement it in a way where people like to feel in control and people like to feel that they have, kind of sense of everything's going to be fine, although this is very playful, because they fear that things will come out of proportion and they will not control anyone. And I say, like with, for example, with Doodly Do, so one of the worlds that I built for 13 years now, that launched in 28 countries or so. It's a experience basically which we use for corporates for the longest time for VIPs, where people sit by a table and draw and get to know each other through play, through creativity, through asking questions that no one asked you before. And you could think, oh, nice to have, play, boring, whatever. But actually, then if we look at the stats, how company culture changed, how people's connections changed, improve, how they still, come back to it after a year of doing it and kind of
Mm.
memorize and reminisce, then I say there's more to it than just nice to have. And
I
if you want
agree.
to hit your ROIs, you want to introduce something more than just data and stats.
I think what's really interesting about that is the word that corporate will, or startups, corporate, whatever, anybody in the business world, they'll use the word, oh, we need to innovate. You cannot innovate without playfulness and curiosity, in my opinion. So for me, they're often, to your point, they're always going, well, if we're going to do that, where's it going to hit the bottom line? You cannot tell me that if you're going to try and innovate, then what you're teaching through doodly do isn't about innovation. Of course, it's got to be, surely. It's got to be connected. relevant,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
relevant.
again, each to their own and everything. And again, I've been part of very, very serious conversations on a, highest level and everything. And we all know when the conversation needs to be had and it's serious, high stakes,
Mm,
there's of course place for that. But I just think that you will speed up human connection, business results, and actually ROI if you let that in and you decide in what sort of way and capacity you want that back. But I don't know now any business who's not struggling with retention, who's not struggling
mm,
with engagement, who's not struggling with any sort of focus, with as a lot of companies call it, the
mm,
vibe's gone. And I'm like, well, I wonder why, because we've been really focused for so long to just hit the targets in the most
mm,
sometimes volatile times for businesses. And we all know that humans don't operate on that level. We all operate on connection, on feeling needed, on feeling seen, especially any sort of bigger companies are struggling with, I don't even know what's these people's names. Well, kudos, great, grow it even more and not know more about their names, because let me tell you, when they'll be quietly leaving and then you spend another 6 months to 1 year to hire someone, it will cost you
mm.
much more than developing these humans and making sure that they're all connected and feel like it matters what you guys are doing. So chicken egg.
It is chickeny. The connectivity one is an interesting one because on the podcast and talking in my general business world around nonconformity, often what I'm finding is those that maybe self-identify or have been identified by others as a nonconformist often feel quite lonely. So what's interesting is the connectivity piece um, around that. It's made me just have a think there and go, connectivity, because there's an epidemic of loneliness. I'm doing a completely other project with the gallery at the moment. I haven't spoken to anyone. It's the first time I'm putting this out into the big wide world, but I'm looking at how do I work with my artists to build a program around supporting loneliness, because artists in particular seem to be a collective group of people that are feeling lonely. But when I dug into the research, the sad bit was like just in one town in particular, we were looking at Cambridge initially. I think I think it was a number, and I'm going to have to put this into the notes because I can't remember off the top of my head exactly. I think it was 79% of all the students that were surveyed on this particular survey were saying that they were feeling loneliness almost on a daily basis. That is sad,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's so sad. And I would imagine a lot of nonconformists feel that disconnection for one reason or another because they've been told they need to be in a box and they don't feel like they should be in a box. And it's that sort of constant bit of a pressure cooker when that sort of situation is going on. So, other milestones that have happened in your life, like moments of brilliance and nonconformity, I'm sure you've got loads of them. Are there any things that jump out at you during your life that have been that, like, I'm very glad I am the nonconformist I am?
I mean, Lena, I don't even think, like, to be fair with you, like, I don't feel like I chose that, like, the life chose me. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
almost what is not non-conformist in my life? I mean, let's not go too far. I live in a, comfortable flat in London. I have a job. I have, I pay my taxes and bills. So like there's a lot of conforming parts to it. But like also it depends what's non-conformist means to you. Like if
Yeah,
we go
true.
outside completely in this conversation, go really wide, it can be non-conformist how you dress,
Yep.
what you eat, the people that you meet, where you go, where you don't go, your opinions, your values, whatever, right? So we can go anywhere. But y- let's say the whole journey of my life has been not necessarily kind of like, I'm not going to do it that way, I'm going to do it my way, but it's more kind of if someone said no to me, and that's been always a thing, if I get a no, then I'm like, let me show you, and it's from let me show you, it kind of became also with age, let me show me, that I
Oh,
can
okay.
do these things, and I can kind of, if I put something into my mind, it can become real, and if I can't, I'll find a different way, and if I can't, I'll maybe change my direction. And people, if you know me, people know that like I try a lot of things, I build a lot of things, and if they fail, that's great also, because like almost from failure, at least I learned so much more than from all the successes. So if something didn't work out, I go like, oh, that sucks, but like, ooh, what was there that like didn't work out? How could I do it next time better? and that kind of goes to all parts of my life, when it comes to like building things, because Natalka is
Mm,
the mothership that allows me, as I say, at night, to build different worlds that I care about and that I see that they're needed in the world, or at least people tell me they need them. So I love to build stuff, and if something dies out, it dies out. If something comes back, that's great. If something goes somewhere amazing, that's awesome. And I think like the day that I lost my curiosity and that sort of spunk and spark, that's the day that like I lost it.
mm, yeah. And do you think that a question I've been asking people, and some people have balked at the way I've asked the question, is do you think, and you're right, based on the point you made about non-conformity, what does that actually mean? It's to everybody different things. But the way, in the way that you've described it today, do you see your version of non-conformity as a superpower or not?
Depends in which rooms I'm in.
Yeah, true.
I would say sometimes it's a power, sometimes it can be you totally feel like a, alone, kind of not cool person. That's not even okay. I'll give you like a super example from like even me growing up. Like I've never really drank alcohol because it's just not something that was attractive to me since young days. And when you grow up, at least back in the days, now it's kind of cool to really, oh, I'm on my 100 days of not drinking, cool, and I'm sitting
You're
there, I'm like
ahead of the curve.
30 something years. But like so that used to be, let's call it nonconformist, because everyone around me did. And every time I would kind of express that, most of the time it kind of came back with backlash, or it came back with a bit
Right.
of a laugh or something. So naturally, that's the interesting thing about being interdependent and kind of in communities, because it's so easy then to go like, well, I better start because else is, and I want to be liked. I want to be part
Yeah.
of something. That's just a natural part of us. We all want to be part of something bigger. We all want to feel as like a collective. And we all want to feel loved and liked. That's at the core of who we are, no matter who you are, where you are, what you do. So there's times where the nonconformist feels uncomfortable, and you're like, oh, why am I doing that, or whatever? Like, why is no one liking me or something? But depending, that's what I said. Depending on the rooms, depending where you are, it can feel expansive. It can feel very comfortable. So I would say I welcome both. I like
Yeah.
to always learn, and tell me, challenge me, give me your opinion. Again, as long as I'm just like, I'll have a conversation if you're kind, if you respect other people's opinions. If you're shouting at me your opinions and everything, and it's just black and white in your way, we're not going to go far. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's dual. There's a nuance to it.
I think the older you get, the more you realize how nuanced the world is as well, you know. Um, it's a world where there is so much coming at us, I think, isn't there? And I think you were right that the younger generation, I think, maybe are struggling a little bit more to find their place. I think, having come from the world of the not being connected through internet or social media and all the rest of it, and literally your imagination and going out and playing was your only option. There was nothing else to do, right? And I think the younger generation, and I think, are sort of feeling a little bit lost because of that. Um, so the future for nonconformists, what do you think that's looking like? So the square pegs and round holes, or squiggly brained people, as I like to call them. What do you think the future is for nonconformists?
The future is what you will make of it, like I don't want to sound here, give you the best, my kind of vision for it, or the negative I give you, I don't know. But what I do know is that that's the only way I know how to be, and it comes to me naturally, and it's not for the sake of like I'm going to push against it, because that's what I do. How many times I agree with things, how many times I want someone to lead, actually with age sometimes, especially when I work with my team. Thank God I have people who lead as well on decisions and everything, because otherwise my brain can't these days do all the decisions, and then I'll just collapse, and like,
Mm,
and I need a month to come back. So the nonconformist comes naturally, I would say. And I just say, whatever you are, whoever you are, just I just wish everyone to find their own version of that, and to feel as free as possible, to get as much clarity in their life as possible. And again, it will mean so many different things to so many different
mm,
people. And I just always encourage kindness, and I always encourage, you do your thing. I'm here for you. I'm going to support that, but let other people express what they want to do, how they want to do it. And hopefully that makes us all much more interesting, because how boring it would be if we kind of all become more and more like each other, because that kind of kills innovation and progress and growth. And I would say not growth for the sake of growth, but we all naturally are built to blossom, to move forward, to expand, right? So if we're living in that sort of space for however long we have still the sun, going around us, or how much we will take care of this earth, let's not go into that. I would say, let's all just freaking support ourselves in those weird, wonky, squiggly decisions sometimes. And sometimes they might not mean much to you, or they might go like, what are the hell are you talking about? But like, trust it. Sometimes maybe we all need to trust each other a bit more.
Mm.
If I can go purely, like I sometimes say this in terms of my business, I just came out of a exec coaching call with one of the top CEOs, and that's part of my job. And I always say, when I introduce my business, I'm a bit of a lie. I haven't had one class in business, haven't had one class in art, haven't had one class in strategy yet. I'm here supporting and advising top businesses around the world for long, long time, and with success. So if that's nonconformist approach to them trusting me and me trusting in myself that I can do this, and me trusting my skills and trusting in the fact that we're here collectively to support each other and make something out of it. And I don't know what that's a brilliant, always I say, example for me. And I always say that to any young people, encouraging, not even young people, if you're at a crossroad where you're changing your job, like
Mm.
life's been hard, you've been fired, you are looking for something new, you don't know because it's so at speed what to do next. That's okay. My goodness, how many people around me of different ages are going through this right now? Everyone's like, what is
Yeah.
happening? Many people. So, as much as for young people, I say that when I go and speak at UAL and LBS and all these places, and very grateful to be able to speak to those young minds, because they are lost in their own way because
Mm.
of all the world that we've built for them, and kind of a bit recklessly, let's say, now want them to manage it very well for us. Equally for all of us that are 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s beyond and a bit lost, that's so okay to feel a bit lost. Like, whoever said that there's a manual or menu to this thing called life? Things can go out of hand or out of what you thought in a second. So again, it kind of takes us back to, I would say, agency, and being that a bit nonconformist. I always think, at the end of the day, none of us, like, we all fear that, am I going to become homeless? Am I going to become like no money, no, not like, we all go to the darkest
Yeah.
holes sometimes, and I sometimes, it takes me back to like, even my friends like once said to me like, you have a room in this flat if anything happens. Like, God damn it, just relax. You know what I mean? Like, I know this is like maybe not everyone's perspective or something, but
Mm.
we're all connected. At the end of the day, I don't truly believe I will be in that situation unless something really cathartic, awful happens. Nor will you. So
No, I agree.
that takes me back to the freaking connection. Let's all trust each other a bit more, because the world doesn't want us to. Let's all connect with each other a bit more, not on a business just level, like, oh, what is she doing? What is he doing? Can I get something out of it?
Yeah, yeah.
But on a level of like, hey, Lena, how's life? What's going on? What's been new? Oh, you got a cat? How awesome. What is this cat? Send me a picture. Doesn't matter. Connect. Don't
Don't
just
have a pet, have plenty of plants. I think the connectivity thing, I think, is really interesting. We've gone through a period of time through the pandemic where it got taken away from us for lots of different reasons, but at the same time it also made us remember about community. And I've got a young lady that's just landed from New Zealand this weekend. She's a friend of mine's daughter. She's staying with me at the moment, and I'm helping her. She's landed in the UK, and she asked me to help her with her LinkedIn. I said, the number one thing you need to remember about LinkedIn: stop treating it like it's a social media platform. Build community, treat it like it's community. And I think we do that. It jumped into my head when you were talking about, on a business perspective, networking. Far too often, networking, people go, oh, I hate networking. Stop thinking about it as networking and going in and go, I want to build connections. I want to meet new people that will inspire me, I will find interesting. Um, and I think something that you're doing at the moment, tell me if we can talk about this or not, Good Souls, because
Yeah.
that's something you're building from a community perspective, isn't it? I'd really like to hear more about that, I think.
Yeah, Good Souls, my goodness, it's just so close to my heart for, a major reason because it kind of came out of losing my dear friend and mentor, what, over 2 years ago now, Darren Robson, who's kind of, well, very much behind. He's my guardian angel until today. He's behind everything that I do. Without him, I wouldn't start Natalka. I wouldn't be the
Oh,
person that I am. Beautiful, beautiful human in my life that influenced it in so many different ways. Shout out to Darren wherever he's looking at. And losing him was just life changing. I'll just keep it there. And anyone that lost someone too early, and
mm,
and we all have that in some sort of capacity. And also, sorry to say, guys, but we're all going to go through that
yeah.
because, well, we're humans, and we're all little, you know,
Cycle
um,
of life, isn't it?
little creatures on a playboard, and everyone's got a different expiry date. But through that loss, it just reminded me one day, somewhere I have this notebook. It does. Oh yeah, there it is. It's kind of always near me. And I had this notebook with notes. I always do notebooks. I love notebooks.
Me
Like,
too, I've got millions.
I'm like, if I had an anko, I don't know why I always came up with this anko in a stationery shop. Like, that would be like my dream. But
Love stationery. I've got millions of stationery. And
yeah,
I do love a Post-it
2020.
note.
Yeah, oh my God, right? I have too many, but that's my life.
Me
Um,
too.
In 2021, I'll just quickly show without kind of showing other notes. I had here, notes that said good souls. And he's there with a little heart. And I always thought of him as a good soul.
Right.
And after losing him and all the darkness and everything and all the grief, I just remembered that word. And I was just like, I was needing so much
Mhm.
people, hugs. I'm both things. I need to be on my own and I need people a lot in
Mhm.
my life. I'm kind of like both,
Me
I
too.
think, in terms of balance. But yeah, I was missing him so much. Long story short, that word came up to me. I saw that notebook and I texted my good friend Christoph, and he's amazing at design and 3D and all that. And I was like, Christoph, I'm seeing these like orange big letters floating in the sky and they say good souls. They're like
I
pillows. And
love
he's
that.
like, uh-huh. So she designed it with like, his skills like in two goes. And since over a year, it's just been very low key for now. The conversations are very interesting and the energy around it is lovely. But it's been basically me gathering humans because I need it. And I feel the more I do it, the more people need it. And the more I
Mm,
allow that space, the more people open up. Like, literally, like I've been feeling so lonely. This came out of nowhere in front of me. Often people find it actually very much in a cold way through internet, not
mm,
word of mouth, and they're
yeah.
just drawn to the vibe, I would say, and to the energy of it. And it's been popping around the world now in what, like I think 15 countries we did a launch. And
Already? Oh,
it's
wow.
coffees, yeah, it's suppers, it's experiences, because I
Oh,
don't want,
that's
I don't
good.
like to again put it in a box. I don't want this to just be a supper or just a coffee, and it needs to be every week. Like, it just doesn't work in my world in that simple
Yeah,
way because
yeah.
all over the place. But it's been gathering the most gorgeous, beautiful people around the world and connecting them. And there's been already coffees exchanged, friendships, business also started, and things like that. So I am just so grateful that his energy is kind of like
Oh,
seeping through all these people, and we all need it. So it's
we
just
do.
my 1% of, my goal is to connect billion people around the world through good souls, and I have
If
big
anybody
dreams
can,
there.
you can. When
Yeah.
when I saw the first post about it on, I think I saw it on LinkedIn, um, I read about what you were doing, an emotion hit me, which was, "This is so Natalia." And I tell you why. The first time I ever met you, the thing that, and I've written it down here, um, kind and giving is the vibe that I got from you. And I thought, this is a physical or a community manifestation of who you, to me, are. And I think if that energy continues, it will, I think you'll hit the billion if that energy just keeps going and you keep, about bringing, it's all about connection, and it's all an organic way of growing thing. Oh, I think it's great. I think it's really cool.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I always say, that's why it's Natalka's above me, because that's the mothership. So I always say, keep hiring us, keep working with us so that I have enough means, money, and
Yeah.
time to build these worlds. Because let's be honest, like everyone wants a piece of kind of the worlds that I've been, kind of grateful to build enough and kind of notice that they're needed. But I always say, at the end of the day, just like everyone else, I need to keep the, bills and lights on and pay wonderful people for their time and work and energy. So keep us afloat, guys, with Natalka, and work with us and call us so that, we can build wider and bigger, and and I can impact more people, because at the end of the day, I'm very happy to stay here, but if I can touch more people and improve someone's day by even 1%, meaning of life sorted. Yeah.
There's something that I've believed in a really long time, both in the FTSQ consultancy side of things, but also in the gallery. But actually, it's part of probably driven because that's how I am as well. I think it's really important to think about the legacy you're going to leave behind by the impact that you have on the world. And I think that from what I'm seeing, that's kind of how you're looking at it. That's the legacy that you want to leave behind in the world, the impact, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, Lena, I mean, again, grief is a huge shift in life, and anyone that's going through it, I'm here with you. I feel it with all my heart. If anyone wants to ever talk about these things, I'm always here on the other end of the call, and I mean it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that just brought so much more new perspective to me. I've always been very aware of life, I've never been, scared of death and all that. Like I always think, again, like Oprah Winfrey once said, no one is walking around with a expiry date on their bum. So we might as well use it to our best advantage and all that in the most, of course, giving and getting way. Like I only believe that, when we nurture and we give and get, that's when the balance of everything works. But it just gave me such a new perspective of like, I've always kind of just like reflected on Natalka's been always about helping people feel seen, helping people feel understood, telling their stories that matter, telling their stories to get people's engagement and create that change for people on an individual level, biggest businesses, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all people.
Mm,
In that governmental room, there's people. In that boardroom, there's people with families, with friends. In that, little startup, there's people who are baking that cake for you every day. People are everywhere. So
mm,
for me, it's just been like a additional new realization of time, and time is also non-existent. Let's not go into that in quantum physics. But I just feel like whatever is the space that I have on this planet in this kind of meat suit for as long as I'm here, it just drives me to add, that whatever I do, it just kind of was this realization that it's all for me about connection and helping people feel seen, understood, and telling their story. So everything I do, it comes out of that one value and that one need and that one energy.
mm.
And I want to do that until my last day.
It's a powerful energy, I
Mm.
think. Very powerful energy. We're heading towards the end of the show now, but I've got one more question up my sleeve, which I think you've maybe already have answered, which is about which nonconformists do you admire and why?
Oh my God, so many. I don't like these questions because I'm just like, ah, there's so many people, and I bet we all have, and it's, I mean, so many, but like I could give you the big names, the Einsteins and all that. Of course, I would love to have like dinners with these people, like don't get me wrong and everything. But you know what? I'll give it to Darren. I'll give it to him because apart from me, if you knew him, you would know how many people he touched and changed their lives. But he was such a nonconformist. He was, since I met him, I was like, what is this brain? What is this cheeky bastard running around and doing things not like everyone else and yet touching so many people's lives? And yeah, I wish he had a long run because the world would be a better place, even if it comes to one more person a day. But it's almost like our souls found each other, and I was like, "Oh, that's my club.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you like,
I do.
oh, there's a club like that for us as like two. We can be that." So
Another weirdo. It's
yeah, well, you know
amazing.
what? Like, so I don't know if that's like too big of a message or anything like that. But guys, like, whatever's stopping you, whoever's saying to you can't, whatever's making you feel like stuck, just decide. And it's an exercise. It's an
Mm,
exercise. It's not going to come to you easily, but try to train your brain with someone's help or if you can't, there's a lot of, outlet these days that can help us. God knows how many podcast, books, and YouTube I consume, but just don't believe in anyone or anything saying to you you can't.
Yeah.
And that we have one life, we have one little road and journey. Surround yourself with people that support your weirdness and your quirkiness and your nonconformist life, and wish well to anyone that's like, wishing you actually not well, because at the end of the day, again, energy, I believe truly in it. I don't wish anyone badly. I always think hurt people hurt people, and it's
Agreed.
just what it is. And some people get to discover that, some people don't have the time or the means or the willingness to do so. But yeah, just I don't know, I'm feeling profound, guys. I'm feeling profound.
Good.
Yeah, just find your tribe, and Darren was definitely that tribe for me. And I owe a lot to that person in terms of the way I am now, my energy, what I do, good souls, Natalka, touching people's lives, bettering businesses, bettering systems, helping people to get clarity from chaos. That's all kind of through Darren and a few other people that I bumped into my life. So again, it comes down to connection for me, because I could maybe do a lot of good things on my own, but I could never do it in that scale and in that speed and with that impact if it wasn't for other people.
I think humans were never meant to be alone. We are not built that way. I don't, not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. I think we just, connectivity. That wasn't the thing that I thought was going to come out of today, but I'm really
Well,
excited.
me and Lena, we're like deep in the weeds here. You're
I
great.
love deep in the weeds. It's where the
Wow.
best stuff is.
Loving this conversation.
It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time today. Is there any other things we haven't touched on today before we end the podcast around nonconformity, or things that you're doing at the moment that you might want to tell people about at all? Or are we done?
Yeah, we're
I
done,
don't
I
know.
think. As I said, hire us here so that we can make more non-conformist worlds that connect you guys. And at the core, I'm here. I love connecting with people, so I'm always down for a conversation, for a connection, for a chat as much as I can also, because I've got
Yeah.
my limitations.
Oh, I
Otherwise,
know.
work will be done. So, we're all part of these systems, but I just wish everyone to open their hearts and souls and minds and trust people. And maybe as a little tip for nonconformists, little tip, maybe just, can you do anything differently in your next week that you haven't done in a while? So for example, if you always go to this cafe, can you go to a different one? If you always taken that route to work, can you take a different one? If you've always went to that gallery for an exhibition, can you go to a different one? If you actually want to pick up a new book and you always go that way, like self-help or history or something, how about maybe something completely different to read and open your mind? So again, these are micro ways that we can be all nonconformists. I might tonight use some different spice on my dinner. How
Oh,
crazy.
I love that. I'm going to a book launch this evening, which will have already happened by the time this goes out. But
Amazing.
I love that, because I think we all think that we have to do like the big things, but I think sometimes it's the micro changes, adjustments. I like that though, putting a different spice. That's
Yeah, and tonight I'm going to a beginner heels class. I love dancing. I've done it for many, 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 many
cool.
years. But I've never wore heels, and I might just end up with a broken leg. But I'm taking those heels,
I
have
hope
no
not.
idea, and I'm going to have a heels class and swirl and twirl and be uncomfortable. Bring it on.
That is so cool. What an exciting thing to be doing. So there we go, everybody. Thank you for listening, listeners. It's been great to have you. Natalia, thank you so much for coming on. And a little tip for the end of today's podcast is, why don't you try doing one thing this week that's a little bit different? If you normally go right, go left. If you go up, go down. Read a book this way or that. I think that's a great tip. Thank you very much.
Thank you
It's
so
been
much.
wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
See you later, everybody.